And I think we were missing, one of our members is not here.
That's correct.
Okay, and who is the one not here?
So that's Alicia Sanders.
Okay, thank you. Well, we have our quorum, so we can proceed. At first, I'd like to ask if we could have
The motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
all right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, so I'll call the question. All in favor of approving the agenda, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's approved. So at this point, we move on to the approval of the minutes. The packet you were given by Ms. Rutledge should have a copy of the last meeting, which was on March 26, 2024. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes of the last meeting? Actually, I think it says December the 13th, 2023 was the date.
Actually, the last minutes were from March 26, 2024. You're correct, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion that we approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting, which was actually on March the 26th, 2024, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that we have a majority, or we have a unanimous approval of the minutes. So this part of the meeting is the public comment. So at this point, if you have any kind of public comment you would like to make, I guess you'd come up to the podium.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. We all have public comment cards out in the lobby, these white cards, and if anybody would like to speak right now, you could let Mr. Chairman know.
Would anyone like to speak? Okay, oh, yes, sir. Did he fill out one of the cards?
No, Mr. Chairman. So as you approach the podium, if you could just state your name and your comment, and I'll just fill it out for you for the record.
Hey, Tony Smith.
Thomas Smith?
Tony Smith.
Tony Smith,
Yeah,
okay.
I live in Lockenburn. I guess my question was, what's the total, what was the total price on this whole building situation with the courthouse? That's kind of what I want to know about it. Do we have a total price of what it is?
Well, there was a bond approved for a certain amount. You have the information on that?
So the total budget for the complex is $140 million. The PFA bonds were issued for $110 million. So that's what you'll get an update on tonight is the $110 million.
Okay. All right.
Anyone else would like to make a comment? Okay, so we'll move on to that. Now we're at the authority comment. This is an opportunity for board members to make any kind of comment they would like to make. And I think the best way to do that is to start at the end. Ms. Davis, would you like to make any comment?
And this is to Sue and or Jennifer. What are you all doing? And I'm sure you all are doing some things to inform the public about the status of what's going on with the building, with the projects.
All right. 2 years ago, we came up with our agenda here. And if it pleases the authority tonight, you might want to consider moving authority comment to after the presentations are completed. That might be beneficial to the authority as well. And if that's the case, we could amend your agenda and place the authority comment after the presentations. Would that be helpful?
I'm fine with that because that means we can't ask them questions after their presentation, if we ask now, if we have the authority comment
No, you can
right
still
now.
ask them questions
okay.
as they go on. So we could give the presentation, the authority can ask questions, but it might be more beneficial if your authority comment was at the end of your agenda. Okay.
I think maybe we won't really know exactly what to ask unless we hear.
Exactly. Okay.
I think maybe we won't really know exactly what to ask unless we hear the
Exactly.
presentation first. Is there a motion that we amend the agenda to move the public comment, the authority comment, down underneath the new business?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so it's a unanimous decision to move that down.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to move on to unfinished business, and it says we have none. Does everyone agree with that? Any unfinished business? Okay. So now we move to new business, where the, let's see, easement ratification.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So a couple of months ago, there were 2 easements that were presented to the authority members, which are in your packet. And we need to have those easements ratified and spread upon the minutes tonight.
This easement has something to do with moving some lines, existing lines that were present to some other location?
Yes, so Georgia Power required us to have easements to move the overhead lines to accommodate the new design.
Okay.
So that's the purpose of that.
Does anyone on the board have any questions about that? For the ratification of the easement?
Mr. Chair, I move that we ratify the 2 easements that are before us.
Well, before we do that, the question was, did we have any questions about it? Was this a part of the original plan?
Yeah, so this was part of our due diligence when we're doing utilities, and that's part of utilities, water lines, overhead power, all of that. So yes, there's a percentage of the budget that is included for things like this.
Thank you.
Is this the same easement that I signed on February the 10th?
Yes.
Yes.
It
Okay,
is.
so I signed it, but now the board's ratifying what I
That's
did?
correct. Yes.
Right, we
Okay.
received approval from all of the members by email or
I
phone.
remember
Actually,
that.
all of them were in email to proceed with the ratification at the time. Yes.
Okay. Does everyone recall that now?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I do.
All right, so is there a motion that we ratify the easement that I previously signed and all of us by email approved previously in February?
So, Mr. Chairman, you have a motion on the floor by Mr. Murphy.
Oh, he has the
That's
motion.
Yes.
Okay, all right, I second it.
All right.
Can I second it?
Yes, you can. You have that authority.
All right, any discussion? No. Okay, all in favor of ratifying the easement, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so it's ratified.
Yes.
Okay, now we move on to the project update with Andrew Hammer, Director of General Services.
Thank you.
All right, good evening.
Good evening.
Again, Andrew Hammer, Director of General Services. So it is, like I always say, General Services is the support department for the county. I like to say that we're the Marines. We're the first in, the last out, and get all the dirty jobs. But that could only be because my son's a Marine, so I'm trying to get some legitimacy by latching on to his title. So that was my stall for while the presentation is being brought up. They told me to give a comprehensive update. So I hope you're comfortable and have a few hours. And then when I did that, they said, better make it fast. So I have about 20 slides that I'm going to go through. I'll try to keep it as general as possible, and then any questions that you might have afterwards, feel free. Next slide, please. All right, so the overall scope of the project, we have 4 different portions here, and then a renovation. So the administration building is about 75,000 square feet. That's new. The courthouse portion that's new is about 116,000 square feet. Then we're renovating what we call the annex building. That's the 3-story portion of the courthouse, and that's about 30,000 square feet. And then we do have a parking deck. Originally, it was planned for 240 spaces. We're trying to do a little over 400 spaces with contribution from the city and with the SPLOST committee. And then the last portion of it, in addition to the renovation, is a little bit over the public defender's building, which is now the magistrate probate court building, and the public defender will be moving in there. So there's a whole lot of moving pieces. We're going to build the new buildings, then move existing staff into the new buildings. Then we're going to renovate the old buildings, and then move some other people over into the buildings as well. So it's a lot of moving parts, sometimes like a shell game.
If I can ask a
Sure.
question, is the parking deck going to be located here where we're sitting today, or what is that looking like?
So that's the plan right now. So we're, we haven't designed it yet, but we're in discussions about the final location.
Got it.
So Sue, when you're saying we haven't designed it yet, it was in the original architectural drawing.
I
Yes.
apologize to interrupt. We are streaming this meeting tonight. If we could all speak into the microphone, maybe you'd scoot up a little so they can hear you. Thank you. I apologize.
So yes, the parking deck, it's in the budget, it was in the original design, and, but we are investigating other, I can't really talk about it with land acquisition, but we are looking at maybe a better placement for it. But it's still in the budget, we just haven't started on the final design,
By a better placement, you mean a different location?
possibly.
Where would that be?
I can't.
Can't say?
Yeah, I can't really get into that. So, but the plan right now, as it stands, if we don't do anything else, is to have it right here.
And to increase from 240 to 400.
Yes, so, let's see, the SPLOST committee had maybe March of last year, one of the members had proposed, since this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity project, to increase the size of the parking deck in Old Town. As you know, we have an issue here, and when will we ever get this opportunity again? They actually tabled it at that time, but after that, the city approached us. So we talked to them about it, and they agree. So the SPLOST committee agreed to allocate extra funding to do another deck, so a third deck, and then the city a fourth deck. So the city actually went to the SPLOST meeting to talk to the group as well. So they committed 1/4, and the SPLOST committed an extra 1/4 to the parking deck.
How much, if I may ask, how much does that add to the budget?
8.8 million.
8.8 million.
Right.
And is when you say deck, is that on top of each other, like levels?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
got
yes.
it.
Excuse me. When does the construction of the parking deck building have to start in order to be ready by the time the courthouse and the administration building are finished, which I understand sometime near the end of 2026?
Yes,
Yes.
they wouldn't be. So it'd have to begin about second quarter next year and be completed about a year from then. So the plan was always the parking garage was part of the second phase. There was no way to do them concurrently, mainly because by doing the parking deck where our existing facility stands, there's all the staff in there, that those staff are moving into the administration building. So the plan was always to build the administration building and the courthouse at the same time, then move everybody in there, then build the parking garage and do the renovations of the existing building roughly at the same time.
When would that be done? I mean, when would that be finished, estimated?
The total project up there on the schedule, the second quarter of 2027 and the third quarter of 2027 is when we expect those to be done. So the whole project, we'll say summer and fall of 2027 will be complete and finally back to parking and parking spaces.
So, where we're, I guess right now, they've worked out where they're parking, because we don't have the same parking space anymore. So by them moving into the courthouse and the administration building, that won't really change anything from what's existing now. It's just that once the parking deck's built, it'll be a whole lot better.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And I think there's also parking over there off of Bank Street, that parking over there behind where all that construction is going on. A lot of people have been parking over there.
Yes, there's one off of Bank Street. There's also one off of Main Street. That's, I think, the same one you're talking about. And then across the street, the Whistle Post Tavern, and there's even a lot across the street, across the railroad tracks as well. Our contractors, what we have them do is they don't park downtown. There is a small little lot that they use that they're renting from the church next door, but all the rest of them, when they ramp up and we have hundreds of vehicles down here, we have a lot identified and they're going to shuttle the staff in and out from there, and that's part of the plan. That way to prevent a huge influx as we get more and more trades on site.
I know we're interrupting your presentation, and I'm sorry about that, but I do want to reiterate the 8.8 million increase for the parking deck is coming from SPLOST dollars, not from this bond.
That's
4.4 from SPLOST, and then the city is allocating 4.4. So it's not the county. We actually, when we were first approached about it, we were set on the $140 million budget, and we said we cannot increase the budget. So that's when that discussion came up, that if they funded it, would we add it to the project?
Well, I'm thrilled to see the city and the county working together on something that would benefit Old Town, so.
And if you could just walk me through the scope. I'm just comparing the scope to the documents that we previously got.
Mhm.
So this is what we previously received. The project scope includes renovation of the existing courthouse. So which one is that up
That would be
there?
the one that says annex renovation.
Annex renovation, okay.
So there's two sections to the existing courthouse that we've labeled. The historic courthouse, that's the Superior Court, the 1937 post office, 1939 courtroom, and then the three-story building that was really built more of an office building type, that's what we're calling the annex. So that does contain courts and staff now.
Okay, so that was okay, and then it says construction of a new court annex to house Superior Court, Magistrate, Probate, Juvenile Court, and so that would be the new courthouse, right?
Correct, yes ma'am.
Okay, so that's the second. And then the last thing we got was construction of the administration facility. That would be the admin building.
Yes ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well,
Oh, public defender building, that wasn't on this list, so can you talk about that?
So it's a very minor piece of it, but it's really moving probate and magistrate court. They are now in the building across the street, and the stone building, and they will be relocated back into the courthouse where they belong.
Okay,
The public defender is currently releasing a building, so they would move into the building that we own. So we own the building where magistrate and probate are. So we would relinquish that lease.
will the courtrooms where Judge Bills currently is and Judge Woods, will those be, you're going to retain those?
Those remain, yes, sir.
Will they be used by any courts?
Yes, actually, and if the judges were here, I'm sure they would speak to the associate judges and the overflow. When they have two different hearings or they have multiple courts at the same time, they have to delay their schedules in order to have only one superior, one state, or one magistrate, and now they'll have two extra courtrooms. And I do have some diagrams when we get there. I can
Right.
show you that a little bit as well.
and we're gonna get a copy of these slides, right?
We can.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so the second category, and everybody wants to know on time and on budget, and with a project this size, that's always it's always difficult to do. And I am pleased to say that we are on budget. We have not increased our budget from the very start of this program. But sometimes there's misunderstandings of what a project budget is and what a construction budget is. I spent many years doing development for owners, especially churches and things like that. And there's always things that an owner has to do that a contractor would not have to do. For instance, telephones, computers, things like that, low voltage, TVs, those type of things. So things that are not built in, or furniture and things like that. So in order to look at the entire comprehensive project, you have a project budget, which is at the bottom there, 140 million, and then you have, give or take, four main categories everything else fits into. The construction budget is the lion's share of that, and that's at $118 million right now. All of the design, the programming, all the due diligence that goes in on the front end, the architects, the engineers, everything like that, I'm lumping in, calling it design and programming. Then you have testing and commissioning. That's all of the materials testing. You'll see a couple slides in here where they have some diagrams. All the material testing for the concrete, the steel, the underground pipes, the dirt, the compaction. I mean, you name it. I think we're up to, I had an open records request the other day, and they wanted all of the inspection reports. And I said, I have about 634 of them. Do you really want all of those, or is there something you're looking for? And the lady said, no, I'm really looking for just this one piece. So there's a whole lot that goes into that. And then commissioning on a building this size, you have so much tonnage for the air conditioning, the lighting, the energy, all the different elements that go into this. Commissioning agent is hired to ensure that everything that was designed in the building and installed in the building performs the way it's supposed to. The energy envelope is maintained. You're getting the testing and the balancing out of the air conditioning equipment, things like that. It's not making loud noises over in the corner like we have in some of our older buildings. So things like that they do. And then FF&E stands for furniture, furnishings, and equipment. So this would be all of the electronic equipment, the switches for computers. This is the furniture, window blinds. I mean, you name it. Everything that goes into the building, security equipment, metal detectors, things like that. So those together, if you add them up, equal the total project budget. And often those are confused because when I stand here and I have to present to the Board of Commissioners and do a change order and an addition or something that comes out of the project budget, it's not part of the contractor's scope of work, but we're contracting with, for instance, an audiovisual specialty contractor. It's included in the overall project budget, it's just not part of the construction. Same thing with testing. You don't want the contractor to do his own testing. You want to hire a third-party independent engineer to do the testing on the contractor to keep the quality high. So I just want to cover that real quick. And then the schedule has been delayed a little bit, and I'm going to share some pictures for you in just a few slides. The Board of Commissioners was presented with a change order. We added 77 days to the contract. It's mainly due to weather and the amount of rain that we had that caused delays on the site. And again, you'll have some slides, and everybody has seen, if you've driven by the site, you've seen a lot of water on site. We can anticipate a lot of the elements underground. We did a lot of geotechnical testing. We knew there was underground water. There were a water table at certain levels. We knew there was underground rock. You can anticipate the cost for that because you can quantify that. You can't tell how long it's going to take in a contract. So typically, rather than have the contractor pad it with extra time and extra money, we put an owner's contingency that covers the unforeseen items, so that covers the cost, and then essentially we just keep on top of the contractor and push and push and push and ensure that they stick to the schedule as much as possible. But we did have some delays at the beginning of the project. Fortunately, we're out of the ground now. We hope to make up some of that time, but we did grant the contractor a no-cost change order. So they had a number of days that they're given, but they're not paid anymore for covering those days. So I hope that puts in perspective. So that might vary from what you'd seen originally. The construction duration originally was 29 months from start to finish, and we're looking at around 31, a little bit over 31 months.
Is that incorporated in your schedule?
In the schedule up here, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
So where we plan is to complete the administration building in the third quarter of 2026, so about a year from now. The benches, the wood paneling, things like that take a little bit longer on the tail end. So even though they start at the same time, the administration building will finish about 3 months before the courthouse.
Has all the interior of both buildings already been designed?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you met with all the elected officials to, like,
Every
Madam
single one of
Clerk
them,
over here?
multiple times, yes, sir. And we'll continue to meet with them. So how the process works is they come up with a color palette. Everybody looks at the color palette. They've looked at carpet and paint colors and things like that. Then they put together color boards. The interior designer puts those together. We've represented them, and now we're looking at furniture, and we put out a furniture bid as well for different types of furniture arrangements and seats and things
Was
like
Madam
that.
Clerk Morris completely satisfied?
I hope that by the time we move her into the building, she will be ecstatic with what we provide.
That's
for
what we
her.
want.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's our goal. All right. All right. So back to the schedule real quick. The final completion, as you see on there, the site will finish a little bit early. There's the green space, the amphitheater. There's some areas out in front to kind of give it that beautification. That'll be the tail end once the buildings are completed. And then we hope the parking deck will be completed about the same time. And then the renovations will be either at the same time or soon after. All right. Next slide, please. So I know this is a little bit hard to see, and I wish I had a pointer, but what you're looking up on the screen is the site plan, looking at it from an aerial standpoint. On the left-hand side is Main Street and Millstead. You could see where the square is that sort of highlights it. That's the courthouse building. And I actually have some diagrams and a couple slides that'll make it a little more clear. Where the top end of the square is, where it's kind of cutting the line through that building, that's the administration building. And the dark sort of line, the street there, that's Millstead Ave. The square on the opposite side, on the top left of the picture, is what the parking deck is currently planned for, in the location where the administration complex is, where we're sitting. All right, next slide, please. So real quick, I want to go through these. They're a little bit washed out, so I'll read these. But the first couple slides, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of the project and who's going in these areas. The first floor of the administration building has on there planning development areas on the top left, and I'll kind of go clockwise around there. Rockdale Water Resources has administrative offices there. That's not the customer service center that's over in the old bank. This is for the administrative staff. The stormwater is to the far right in the corner. Below that is human resources, and it looks green, again, it's a little washed out. Going clockwise, there's a staff area as well. That's for the break room, mechanical room, electrical room. It says staff area. It's really all the guts of the building as well, the IT. And then on the left is the public meeting room. The public meeting room will be essentially the Board of Commissioners assembly room, like where we're meeting now. That'll be replaced over there. A little bit different configuration. The floor will be flat, and the furniture will be movable so that it's a multi-purpose room. So we can use it for different events, across the county, meetings, training, all kinds of things that we can use it for. All right, next slide, please. On the second floor of the administration building, we have, again, I'll go clockwise from the top left. We have the Board of Assessors area. It's labeled staff area. It's actually for future growth. What we've tried to do is build into this building about a 10 to 20 year program for all the different departments. So when the architect was going through and did his programming, he said, okay, how many staff do you have now? How many offices? How many private offices? How many workstations, copy rooms, conference rooms, everything that you utilize right now, even though we're cramped for space? And then what do you anticipate growth 5 years, 10 years, 20 years out? Because what we don't want to do is move into a building and then be immediately full again. So we do have built into each of the areas a little bit of growth space, and then we have a handful of areas that we can grow into, or if there's additional staff or departments, or we rearrange departments as you do over the years, we have that flexibility in the building. So that's one of the areas we have in there, and we have a couple others. To the top right is the public relations area. Circling down bottom right is the finance department. And again, staff area, that includes some of the restrooms, some of the hallways, electrical, mechanical, and then a break room. There's a small break room on every floor to handle every floor. So each department does not have its own break room, but there are break areas. And then you see where the big X is, that's the Board of Commissioners assembly room is a 2-story space. So that just represents the space on the second story above. That's part of the assembly hall. All right, next slide, please. And then on the third floor, the only occupied area up on the third floor is the Board of Commissioners area. And that's the area at the bottom left that you see there. The top left, and then sort of in the middle there that's labeled, those are shell space. So when we're building this building, as you've been in other municipal buildings, they don't build out the area. So shell space is just the steel and the walls and the roof, and that's it. There's no lighting, no air conditioning, no bathrooms, no plumbing, no finishes. So that way it can be built out in the future. So it's relatively inexpensive. And then as the county expands, as we hit 120,000 and 130,000 and 140,000 in additional services, there's room to expand. That would be much less expensive and less intrusive than trying to build another building or build on top of a building. And then the far right there is just the roof. It's only half of a third floor. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so now here this represents the full diagram of the courthouse. So I know this is the lion's share of the project. At the bottom portion of it, this would be as if you're standing on Main Street and you're looking at the historic building. So that's at the bottom there. On the left side is the 1937 post office. On the right side is the 1939 courthouse. So Judge Bill's chambers and courtroom would be on the left. The rotunda would be right in the middle. And then Judge Wood's area on the right. As you move back, there's that first dark spotted line. That's where you make a transition from what we were calling the historic courthouse to the 3-story annex. So that annex is in the middle portion, and then the back portion is what we're calling the new addition or the new courthouse. So we have different designations during construction, but understand the entire structure, the complex, left to right, top to bottom, front to back, is the courthouse. So there's no distinction as far as security, as far as finishes, as far as functionality from top to bottom of all the different areas in the courthouse. But what on the top portion of it is the new addition or the new construction portion. And then the 3-story annex will be completely gutted all the way down to the steel walls, everything, lights, everything in there other than the elevator shaft and the stairwells, and will be completely renovated top to bottom. And we'll get to those, who's going to occupy those in a minute. Next slide, please. Okay, and again, it's a little bit hard to see on the screen. I apologize for that. It's hard to take the architect's drawings and blow them up and not have 150 slides for you, so try to consolidate it. But the historic area will remain at the bottom there. For the most part, it will remain untouched as far as walls and structure goes. We are going to do some roofing work, the air conditioning, do some painting. We've already begun some of the different elements as far as carpeting and plaster work and some of the other areas, lighting and ceiling work and Judge Wood's chambers, things like that. So we're upgrading that to match the level of finishes as the rest of the complex. And then in the middle, on the first floor, I'm going to do one floor at a time. On the first floor will be the clerk of court's spaces from front to back. That'll be the entire first floor of the annex building, and then a little bit of the new building that's the connector that connects to the larger portion of the courthouse. And then in the pink there, at the top left, is a mediation suite. That was one of the requirements, and we do not have that currently, but we will have that in the new building. The blue is magistrate court. There's 2 courtrooms for magistrate, juvenile court. It's a little hard to see on this diagram, but juvenile court has always been sort of one of the largest needs because you have no waiting room and no waiting space, no way. So everybody who walks down the hallway walks right down where those chairs sit, and that's where the clients sit, that's where the witnesses sit, that's where the attorneys sit. So all of this will be fixed in this. The juvenile area is all the way down the corner, so you have to travel down from the front of the building. You kind of jog a little corner, so there's no line of sight, and there's waiting rooms there. There's a check-in area. There's some meeting rooms that really accommodate juvenile court. That's probably one of the areas that gets the most drastic change in this building for the better. So that's on the first floor. Next slide, please. On the second floor, we'll go bottom to top again. Again, we have the historic area. The clerk of court's offices occupy about half of the second floor that'll be renovated, and the district attorney will hold the other half of the second floor. And then moving up from there, we have probate court, kind of jogs around the corner. So you have the courtroom itself, and then their offices on the left side. And then there's 2 state courtrooms there. And then the area on the right kind of looks grayish pinkish. So there's no air conditioning, no lighting, no ceiling, no paint, no walls, nothing in that space, and that'll be for expansion. It's designed in size to hold 2 additional courtrooms and then the associated offices and chambers, jury rooms and things like that related to that. That's shell space. Next slide, please. And then on the top floor, going bottom to top, we have the historic area again. The district attorney will occupy the third floor, the entire third floor of the annex building, again renovated. Then there's the accountability court area, the TPO offices on the left side. It's a tall rectangle, and then again 2 superior courts offices, jury rooms, and chambers in the yellow area. And then, again, it's just the roof on the right portion. This one also only has half a floor on the new building there. Any questions before I move on to the pictures? I know there was one question about security that I was asked. This project does a fantastic job at solving one of our largest problems, and I talked about the juvenile area, but if you go over on any given day when they have court and they bring inmates in, you might get stopped in the hallway, and they have a little bitty stanchion, a little bit of ribbon, and they pull it across and they attach it to one side, and that's the separation between the public, the staff, the inmates, the jurors, and the judge. And it's really inadequate, to say the least. So in this building, what you'll find is the public will enter. It's a little hard to see, but on the top there, it'll be on the first floor, of course, not on the third floor. But you see what kind of looks like little columns. There's about 4 or 5 columns. So that's the entryway. So public and staff come in, they go through screening, and that's the only time any of them ever meet. When they enter into their public areas, the public goes up and down on the left and the top side. The staff area have corridors on the bottom and the right side. So there's front of house and then there's back of house. So unless staff wishes to interact with the public other than at the windows and the doors, the public cannot come back into staff area at all. In addition, the judges will park in a judge's lot, and I can show you on the site plan, but they'll come in through their own separate entrance. There is a screening that'll happen as well, just to ensure that the person that badges through and it says Judge Bills is actually Judge Bills, or Judge Wood or any of the other elected officials. So they'll come into their area, and there's a staff elevator in the back that the public does not have access to, that they can use to go up and down in their chambers without ever interacting with the public, again, unless they desire. And the inmates, how the inmates work is they enter through a vehicular sally port on Bank Street. They'll drive in, it'll be a secured area, the fence will close, the sally port will close, the sheriff's office will escort them into holding cells downstairs. It's essentially a mini jail. It operates exactly like they have over at the jail, with the doors and the electronic controls and everything there. When they're ready to go into court, they go into an interior elevator that is only for inmates. They travel up to state court or superior court or magistrate court or juvenile court, as it may be. The juveniles are separated from the adults, so they never meet in the courtroom or in the holding cells. They even have their own when they come in the sally port. They come in a separate entrance than the adults, so they never interact. And then the inmates come up. They enter into an additional holding cell that's just outside of the courtroom, so that during court, the only time that the judge, the attorneys, the public, the staff, the inmate, and any witnesses come together is in the courtroom itself. And that's how the entire complex is designed. So we're real proud of the architect and engineers.
Those structurally designed such that perhaps you could consider adding?
Absolutely. We could build out the third floor.
Got it.
Yes, sir. It has a structure, it has a concrete pad, and then the roofing is on the top of that. So if we decide that we do need the other portion of it, they strip off the roofing and they can build up from there.
Okay.
Structure already accommodates it.
Smart. Thank you.
We had done that previously at the Sheriff's Administration building. We just completed that project a few years ago. Okay, next slide, please. So now I think these are pulling up much better. Kind of like to walk through. I think you, if you've driven by the site, you've probably seen everything on here. But I'm going to walk through just sort of pipe sticking up in the ground. So it's this, and then a couple weeks later, to say, what is the pipe on the ground? So what is the pipe on the ground? So as you can imagine, $140 million construction has all kinds of exciting things in it. And then we certainly have all kinds of exciting weather as well. That was one of the main things that we fought at the beginning of the project. You start a project in the middle of winter or at the end of fall, the beginning of winter, and you deal with the rain. So we did have a lot of water on the site. And as you could see here, some of it was contained. You see some pipes sticking up there, and then you see a whole lot of mud. And then on the right-hand side, the utility work. And I know you just agreed to the utility easements. That's one of those things that you do ongoing as you're going through the project. So you can't just take all the utilities away and then put them all back up. You have to do that in stages. So at the beginning of the process, you can see Georgia Power, Atlanta Gas, Comcast, or Xfinity, AT&T, I'm sure I'm missing somebody at the moment. Rockdale Water Resources assisted us as far as relocating all the power poles. So around the sides of our site and hopefully in the front of our site as well, there will not be any overhead lines. We're going to attempt to eliminate all of the overhead lines, really to kind of clean this up and give it a much better look for our downtown area. Next slide, please. Again, so that was December and January. One of the things that we dealt with was rock, and I talked to you about that before. Neither the water intrusion that we had nor the rock increased the project budget. We had anticipated that. We had a lot of geotechnical engineering done ahead of time in several different times of the year, at the high times, in dry weather and in wet weather, to make sure that we evaluated what the water level underneath was going to look like and where there was rock around our site. So there's no increase to our budget for either of those. They do just take a little bit of time to do and to excavate. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I used to have a law office right there on the corner across from the construction site, and I thought, boy, this is going to be cool having a courthouse built right in front of my office. But I found out that it was just too much, and I ended up closing the office, and I'm practicing elsewhere now. But my question is, I understand that there was some unknown sewer line or something that was discovered, and they had to reroute it during I guess when they first started excavating and they were starting into that. Was there some surprise that came about that where they had to spend an extra amount of time rerouting the?
They did. I mean, we did encounter a couple sewer lines that weren't marked, that weren't known, and that didn't have anything in them. So they were, long abandoned. We did have a couple of those on site that we had to deal with.
So they were just abandoned sites? You didn't have to reroute anything?
Well, we had to reroute a lot of the sewer and a lot of the storm drainage on the entire site. I could get with you and you can show me exactly which one that
Well, there
you're
was
thinking
something that
about.
happened, and they ended up having to go across Bank Street and go over there between Nations Building and the...
That was already planned. That was
planned?
part of, yeah. So all of the water that drains on the site goes one of two places. The one portion of it on Pine Street drains over and it crosses over into the Board of Education. So we had some work to do across there, and we had gotten some easements from the Board of Education to cut out that area and improve that and lower some of the sewer lines and tie in, or storm lines, excuse me. And then on Bank Street, that was where the low spot was for the rest of the site. Everything was draining over to that area.
But there wasn't anything about this that was unusual or added to the cost in a significant manner?
No, not as far as not as far as the sewer or the storm. Like I said, they did encounter a couple pipes underground that were abandoned, and they just excavated them along with everything else. So all the underground sewer and everything is tied in and completed. I think might even have some pictures
Thank
on
you.
that. Yeah. Okay, so in January we were dealing with some rock over on the side. I believe that's over on Pine Street. That was the vein of rock that we found on the Board of Education side. I'd like to blame them, but it was on our site, so I can't do that. And then, as you can see on there, the picture on the top left, I'll go clockwise, it might be easiest. Top left is where they're excavating rock and they're chipping it out in where an existing storm manhole is. That's the manhole that's sitting there, and they're trying to get that in and try to get it rearranged. And then there's some chunk rock in the middle that you can see that they've excavated, and then it got rained on, so now it's muddy, but it's okay because they plan to take that out anyway. And then on the right-hand side, I believe this is some repairs that they were making when they were working on Bank Street. They went ahead and re-poured some of the areas. They had to cut across it. Of course, they put it back so that traffic could use that street. And then at the bottom is just sort of a pretty cool aerial view that they got from I believe it's from the top of the courthouse, or the drones. That's one of the areas they were using, and it kind of shows, you can see all the storm pipe line up there right up against the historic jail. There was a huge amount of underground pipes that had to go into this. If you were, just keep in mind that this site dates back 100 years, and for the most part, it had never had any water detention, any water quality, anything like that, because it just didn't exist back then. When it drained off the site, went back into farmland. And now we have all the development and everything around us, so there's a huge amount of work that needed to take place in order to have retention of the water, to have water quality treatment, and everything that's required for modern stormwater. All right, next slide, please. So that brings us to February, and again, we're still dealing with water because the water just did not quit. And one of the things that we had planned the site at the beginning was water mitigation, essentially. It's they had temporary measures that they would do, and then they had permanent measures. So what you see up there, I think that was the pipe that the lady called and asked me about, was a temporary dewatering where they take a pipe and they sink it down about 20 feet into the ground, and then you just pump water out of it. What it does is it lowers the water table temporarily so that they can work in that area. And then they work in that area and they pull it up and they move on to the next area. Something that was planned all along based on where we knew the water existed under the site. But nonetheless, it does make it challenging for them to work, and they have to be very careful at how they stage the site and move around on it. All right, next slide, please. And then as we're getting out of the dirt in March, we're still fighting with that, but able to start pouring concrete, which was an exciting day for us. As you can see on the top left is the 3-story building. And so we're putting in a drive lane there because that's where all the trucks were coming in and out for the deliveries. In the middle is essentially, it's what's called an auger pile or a helica pile. So it's a huge auger that they drill down, and then as soon as they drill down, they pull it out, they fill it up with rock, and what that essentially does is it's spaced at strategic areas based on the structural engineering drawing, and it stabilizes the entire dirt and the entire area in an inexpensive way, and then you pour the huge foundations on the top, and then you put the 3-story building on top of that. So what it does is it kind of stabilizes the dirt, and it also allows flexibility as far as their design, and it allows water to flow underneath in the water table as it does naturally. On the right side, you can see some of the footings that they poured on there, and some of the rebar sticking out. There is tons and tons, and I mean that literally, of steel that goes into the foundations to support a structure of this size. And then bottom left is kind of the same picture. So next slide. By the time we were getting into April, as you can see, especially in the left and the middle slide, we're pouring the basement walls. And again, it carries a huge amount of weight as far as this large structure. So there's a lot of reinforcement bar or rebar that goes into the foundation walls. Every single inch of those was inspected. That's some of the 634 reports I mentioned earlier. There's an inspector on site most days, if not any day that they're doing any work out there. We have somebody out there, multiple people out there, checking the quality of the work, making sure the rebar is the correct size, it's the correct location, it's tied off properly, and so on. You see the same thing in the middle. And then on the right, again, this is where they still dealing with the rain. We had the footings poured and getting ready to try to do the rest, and then the water rains again. But you can see a little bit, if you can see that pipe that's going along the edge of the water there, that was part of the dewatering program that we had. It's called a well point system. And once we were able to get the building pad cleared out and the foundations in, they can ring the entire site with pipes that go every 10 feet or every 5 feet, and they're drilled down 20 feet, and they pump water. And what they do is they lower the water so that you can work and get in your deep foundations. And then when you're finished with that, you pour the foundations and you go up with the footings, and you put in a permanent dewatering solution, which is essentially like a foundation drain. I might have a picture of that in there. So we're dealing with the water that we know exists temporarily and permanently as well. So we make sure that our building is dry. And next slide, please. Yeah, so that's it on the left-hand side. You can see them beginning to install. Around to the side goes back into the drain and follows its natural path. And that enables our building to stay dry and still have the water be rerouted around it. So you can see some of the black. You have the large concrete walls, and then you have the black fabric that's going up. There's several different layers. There's the tar, essentially, that they roll onto it that acts as a waterproofing. Then there's a drainage mat that goes onto the top of that, and the drainage mat is lapped properly and then double-checked and triple-checked to make sure that any water that intrudes will come onto the mat, flows into it, flows down to the bottom, and then out in the foundation drain. They've been doing this for many, many, many years. And most of our houses, if they're well built, have something very similar to this. Next slide, please. By the time we get into June, we're finally getting out of the foot actual details of it. And as you can see in the top left, those are electrical conduit that's going in for the building, and that is just a fraction of the electrical conduit. There are miles and miles and miles of conduit, as you can imagine. We have power requirements, low voltage, security electronics, badge access, cameras, everything that goes into a modern building needs that infrastructure. And so you can see they bundle that, and then let's see, on the middle slide there, just some testing. Every time they do a certain area, they check it to make sure it's plumb and true, so that you build on a foundation. The higher up you go, the more important that initial foundation is to be plumb and true. On the right-hand side is a mock-up. I only put that in there. It's actually not part of the building construction, but it's part of the quality control that we do. Anytime you have a building of any significant size, you have what's called a mock-up, and it's a mini version of all of the systems in the building. So for instance, they'll put the foundation and the steel, and then they'll put a foundation drainage mat in there. And then the inspectors go over and test it and say, yes, you're installing that properly, now you can go to the building and do it there. Then they do the next section of it. They do the drywall, the windows. Are they taping off the windows properly so that they don't have water intrusion on the windows, so that they're sealed properly? All of us have heard stories or experienced stories or maybe been stories of contractors that haven't installed things properly. And so this is not something that we're going to have on our building. No building's perfect, of course, but everything that we can possibly do from a quality standpoint is being done to ensure the county gets a good quality building.
Now, the inspectors, are they county, city?
They're all
Private?
third-party independent inspectors. So we do have, geotechnical inspectors for the site, we have the environmental inspectors for the NPDS, we have the structural inspectors for the steel, there are the Safe Built inspects the building, envelope and all the systems, and then the engineers themselves come over and inspect it, and then we also have a building commissioning agent that inspects, has a whole laundry list of things that they inspect on top of everything else. And then I have 2 staff members that I've devoted 100% to this project as well, to ensure that everybody else does their job inspecting everything that needs to be done. Sometimes it sounds like overkill when I lay it out like that. One of the things that we are not going to compromise is the quality of this building. It's just not something that we should do. This building needs to be here long after I've retired, long after all of us are gone. It should be here another 100 years, and I hope just as dry as it is when we open. All right, next slide, please. Finally, in July, we start putting up steel, and everything up until July was all underground. It's the foundation. It's things that you don't ever see, but definitely need to be there and are important. But finally, the skeleton starts going up in the building, and in my meetings with the contractor, I have a good cheer because we can finally see that progress going up, that first piece of steel that arrived on the site in July. And then we're working out on the left-hand side is just kind of a neat picture where they have this huge crane. I had another picture that I couldn't find to put in here of the crane, and it was just a beam suspending in air. The crane was so high when he took the picture you couldn't even see the rest of it, but I couldn't get that in there. So those beams there, those columns that you see there sticking out of the ground are the administration building. Again, I told you that the administration building and courthouse were started at the same time that you can see, but the concrete and the steel for the administration building goes a little bit quicker, so they're a little bit ahead of it. On the right-hand side is the existing 3-story annex building, and you can see them digging out the foundations because they're getting ready to put the steel up right against the existing building. And then, of course, at the bottom is yet another measure of traffic control. If you've gone down Pine Street and Bank, you might have to be able to get in and out with hundreds of deliveries, dozens of concrete trucks, and be able to still allow people to function and interfere. Bought all the workers lunch because she said they did such a good job at making sure that they could get in and out of the building. So I was real happy with that. All right, next slide, please. Just a couple more pictures. They moved real fast in July from the first beams, I think, went up July 14th or 15th, if I recall correctly. And by the end of the July, they really had something that you could see. In fact, I left for a trip with my family, and I came back 5 days later, and I was so excited to see that they had made it as far as they did. And then at the bottom there, so a portion of the building is above ground, portion of the building has just a slab on grade, and they're getting ready to prep that and pour that slab, but they haven't even started on, so it shows you the magnitude of the building. And then the top right, just in case anybody was curious how they poured concrete such a large slab and you're not familiar with it, they have a pump truck out there. They dump the concrete into that pump and it pumps it up and down, and that arm can extend over the entire site, and that way they can pour it evenly, consistently, smoothly, and plumb without having any issues on the site. And then in the bottom section, the only thing I'll mention there is the existing building has 12-foot floors. They're 12 feet from floor to floor. The new building is 14 feet because that's what modern courtrooms need for height, for security, for cameras, things like that. And as you can imagine, if you have 1, 2, and 3 that are 12 feet, 1, 2, and 3 that are 14 feet, they're not going to match up somewhere. So when you're looking at the steel, it's not a mistake. They're not zigzags, they're not up and down, they didn't put it at the wrong angle. It's designed that way on purpose. The second floors match up. The first floor ramps up from the new building to the old building, and then on the third floor it ramps down from the new building to the old building, or up if you go in the other way. So when you look over there, you'll see, it's a little hard to see, but the main floor is flat, but on the front area is a small ramp, and the steel reflects.
Earlier 2025, not 2024.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did they?
It's kind of confused me a little bit.
Yeah,
I thought I
should
just
have.
asked the question.
I was editing these today, so I apologize. Yes, the January 2020, it should be 2025 all the way to the present. Yeah, the last 8 slides. Yes, I
I
apologize.
thought, how did I miss all this last
I'll
year?
change those before we email them over, so that way they're correct. Sorry about that. All right, and then that was yesterday, and you can see the huge crane on the right lifting lifting the steel in, and down the bottom, that's the connector. You can just barely make out the on the right-hand side, the annex building, and the steel is extending all the way across to the courthouse. So we've already started on the courthouse steel. Next slide, and I think that's it. Any questions?
Andrew, you mentioned the lady that has kept in contact with you. I'd love to hear that. I'd love to know that our community is so involved with what's going on there and are willing to ask the questions, so that's great. This probably has nothing to do with this, but the clay building, does the county own that? And if so, what's going to happen
Yes,
with that?
so the old clay building that exists now, that was what we talked about earlier. That's where magistrate and probate will go into the new building. The public defender, who leases spaces in the Coke building
Will
and the
go
Landmark
into-
building,
okay.
will go into the magistrate
Clay
probate. Of where to get around, you talked about the parking, where to park in Old Town. There's a map on there that shows that. And then it has a section for milestones, some headlines, and then about this project. And I believe it still has the project overview. I have it here in another couple of days. We'll get the updated one showing all the steel. So it has a lot of good information on there.
I don't know.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr.
All right,
Hammond.
thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr.
All right,
Hammond.
thank you.
Yeah, well done.
Well done.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. Next slide. Annually on July 1st and January 1st of each year, and principal is paid once per year on January 1st of each year. So the bonds are actually paid from the county, and those are call feature, which means if interest rates go down, the authority and county does have the option to prepay these bonds, basically swap them out for lower costing bonds in 10 years. And we did a level debt structure with principal starting in 2028. Next slide, please. So I'll just highlight here some of the bond summary statistics. The original principal amount was $110 million, but I do want to point out when we did go to market, we were able to take advantage of some premium on the bonds. So the total project fund that we did get from this was $118 million, or close to $119 million. The maximum annual debt service is right at 7.4 million. The average coupon is 5%, but the bond yield is 3.64%. So the difference there, so your total cost of borrowing is 3.6%, which is really good considering now interest rates have gone up. Next slide.
Could you tell me who purchased the bonds, or was it the general public, or were there particular bondholders?
So there are different groups of bondholders, David. David Corbin from Terminus is here as well. Different group of bondholders, BlackRock, some of your large, bond buyers. Anyone else you want to mention?
Just curious.
There were about 30 different purchases of those bonds, and they were offered to the public on a retail basis.
David, can you go up to the microphone so they can hear you at home? Thank you.
So we had approximately 30 different large purchasers of bonds, anywhere ranging from $1 million up to $10 to $15 million, somewhere in that range at the time. We can get you a list of just about all of them at the time. That doesn't mean they still own them. I think the bulk of them do. And then the public had an opportunity to buy them on a retail basis. About 5% of those bonds at the time went retail. Now, who those individual buyers are, that's a little tougher to find out. But about 5% of that 110 million went to private citizens for the most part.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
So this slide just shows the outstanding debt service. So this is your amortization schedule that's remaining since last year. As I mentioned, we start principal payments January 1st of 2028. So after the project's been completed, we structured it that way so you wouldn't have to, the county, the authority wouldn't have to make those principal payments while you're still in construction. So right now you are only paying interest on the bonds, $5.5 million, and then it does ramp up once you do start making those principal payments in 2028. Next slide, please. So just to give a financial update on where we are now, total interest paid on the bonds since last year. As I mentioned, you are paying interest January 1st and July 1st of each year. So year to date from last year to now, you paid $6 million in interest on the bonds, $6.6 million to be exact. No principal as yet. As I mentioned, principal payments begin January of 2028. Total project expenditures since last year, $41.4 million. And we have earned some interest on the funds. So the funds were deposited in a construction fund, and those were invested in Georgia Fund 1, I believe, and they are earning interest while they're sitting there to be used. So you've earned $5.6 million in interest on the.
Been sitting in an account earning interest, and that's helped
Right.
offset the interest that you've had to pay on the bonds, or can that be done?
If I'm understanding you
What
correctly,
happens to the interest that's accumulated?
that can be used towards the project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, could you tell us how the categories of what was dispersed so far?
I don't have that breakdown.
Like how
here
much to
with
the
me.
contractor,
I don't have that
architect, so
breakdown.
forth?
Director Sanders.
We can get that.
Got it. Yeah,
Just
I
had
figure
a-
it's just a lot of soft cost up front that's paid. And, so
Yes, so we have a lot of, the way that it worked was really, this has been going on for, as you know, many years. We started with the task force, but that was well before the PFA. So last year, in 2024, have funds encumbered, ordering supplies,
Sure.
electrical, all of that. So while it might not look like that much, we have most of the construction budget is already under contract,
Got it.
other than the parking deck. So that's why.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to go back to the question that was asked regarding the interest. Are there any limitations or restrictions?
Fund. So if it's remaining after, that would be part of the 10-year call where we could refinance or pay down. So it can only be used for this project. Does that answer you?
It does.
Okay.
But, so I know I wasn't asking about any other projects, but for this project, there aren't any restrictions on this project. For
Okay.
example, hopefully Mr. Hammer won't, but if he says we have some budget overruns, then the interest could be used for those types of things.
It could, but we would have to go before the Board of Commissioners. We have contingency built into the project. So when we started this, we put, there's construction contingency as well as owner's contingency, because you have to plan for the unforeseen circumstances. You don't know what's in underground in a
Budget?
No. So the original bonds were issued for the 110 for the PFA, the SPLOS bonds, and then there was also 2 years of millage that were collected before we started the project, because the millage had to be increased in order for us to go out to the bonds. So we collected 2 years of millage. That is in the county funds, 13.2 million that is set aside just for this project. So no, we did not. So we could have, funds remaining at the end.
So when we're issuing bonds and reinvesting proceeds, typically don't, plan for interest earnings to be used as like contingency or anything, just because of the uncertainty of the market. So this wasn't, planned into the budget.
Found money.
But it is sorry, what was that?
Found money.
Do you all have a forecast of how much additional interest will be earned?
There's going to be interest earned on the bonds. Right now, it's a unique time. If you would have done the bond issue maybe 3 years ago, interest rates were almost zero at one point, at one rate. And the bonds, at that point, the investment yields were so low that you really weren't earning any interest. So the good thing now is that the interest is, you can buy a 2-year treasury at 2.5%, maybe, 4%. So the bonds the unspent proceeds were deposited into an account, and we anticipated, out in the future. So we felt like it was more important to preserve the option. If you end up earning $12 million in interest now that number is going to go down as you spend the proceeds over time. They're not available, right? So these over time, they're not available, right? So that draw schedule could go up. We didn't know the draw schedule. If we would have had a perfect, I've built a house, and the draw schedule never seems to work out the way we anticipate, right? So service payment or using those funds to, maybe there's something that pops up that comes over budget.
My question was, can that money be used to pay the interest paid on the bonds?
It could be. Potentially it could be.
And so at the end of the project, we'd have to vote and decide how to use that money? Would that be the board's job, or would that be the commissioner's job?
That would be, that would stay with the commission, because ultimately they would just say, okay, maybe we're not making a debt service payment. We'll just use the interest account to go ahead and make that payment. So there wouldn't be a payment at the end. The money would be used if they didn't want to use that.
But we're talking here about.
What you want is the spread between what you're paying and what you're receiving to be as little as possible, right? And I think that was the whole goal, without speculating too much and using it as embedded in the project. Because again, even after this, things have changed a little bit, and so I think the staff and the county has done a wonderful job in terms of managing what that looks like and keeping the dollars intact before this project. Because somebody may want a red wall, somebody may want a white wall, somebody may want something.
Right, until we get to the end of the project, yes.
Okay.
Or if there's a change order that might come out of the renovation process when we get to that point.
There could
So that's
be.
possible.
There could be. We have that built in, but there always could be.
Just one more thing that the CFO had asked me to mention was, we've got interest, we're earning the interest, which is great, but you don't want to earn, it'd be great if we earned more than what the bonds actually paid. And in fact, we are, the bond yield is 3.64, but I would bet that we're probably earning more than that. It's okay to earn more, because what the government, IRS, doesn't want you to do is borrow money to make money, because then you'd have to rebate it back. Then it becomes an arbitrage issue, right? But I think we're going to be well within spending 80% of those proceeds within 36 months. So we should be in pretty good shape. It's a good problem to have if you're earning more than the effective yield on the bonds.
But we're
right?
not complaining, I promise you.
So, thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
So One last question. No, not for you. It's really more for engaging Mr. Hammer. What % complete would you say the project is as we see it?
Ordering equipment that you haven't seen on site yet. Elevators have long lead time, electrical switches, the air conditioning equipment like that. You're paying for those and putting deposits on them, so to speak. Don't call it a deposit, but that you don't see on site. So if I had to just off the top of my head, and I'll go look that up, I'd say we're probably around 25, 27, 28% would be my rough guess as to where we are as far as expenditures.
Okay, that's pretty much in line with what you spent almost.
Yeah.
Were you through with your report on the you were? Okay.
I just have a question. Will we be able to get a report of?
Nice way of saying
Yes,
wrap it up.
we'll
Okay,
send
thank
you
you.
both of them.
Right,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
Okay, so we're through with the new business. I think we moved the authority comment to below that, so I guess this is the portion where we can have comment from the authority members.
Yes.
And I guess, would you like to start?
Well, I just want to commend the county on doing such a great job and all those who are engaged, involved. I think we're seeing a point of pride coming out of the ground over there, and I think it's going to be exciting to see that further unfold, quite frankly. So I applaud the efforts, certainly applaud the due diligence that's been underway here, and appreciate
Say that because what you just presented was nice, neat, concise, to the point. Is there something that can be put out there on a web page?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry. Amber.
Okay.
So we're going to post all of these. So that was the plan, to post all of this after your meeting for the public to view. So this is the meeting for the public to view. So this is open and we'll post it all. The website is very easy to navigate. So we'll do a better job of routing people to Reimagine Rockdale, but you can go on there and get a ton of information. So we started way back with the task force. We posted everything they ever did, every meeting minutes, and we're doing that as we move forward with this, trying to be transparent. But also, like Director Hammer said, anyone that calls in, we're answering questions, we're providing records. I know Michael Robinson, he's the project program manager. He meets with, he's met with citizens to look at the plans and go over them. So anyone that has a question can feel free to contact us at our office, any one of us, and we'll walk you through any of the questions, where things are located. We can't put out the actual plans, which is why he did blocks on the diagram for security reasons. So that's why we didn't put out actual, hallways and here's the rooms. But we were willing and always able to answer any kind of questions.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question. How much, or what % of this project have we engaged Rockdale businesses? Any sense of what that is, or is that being tracked at all?
Local. And then we also have EBO a goal that we've also exceeded. I believe that's 20%. And I think we're
Yes.
tracking right around 22, 23%.
Is that through what the contractor is doing?
They have been diligent. We actually required McCarthy Barnsley to call each and every, we got the business license list from planning and development, to call each and every business and see if there was any way that they could be involved in the project. They actually have someone that works with them that will walk local businesses through the process, because it is cumbersome, if you're not used to it, and getting registered to do business with with them as part of this project. Because a lot of times your larger contractors will bid, so they've actually been taking the large contractors, and pairing them up with smaller contractors as well. So
Excellent.
they've been required to make the effort, but they've gone above and beyond.
Very good.
Well, the last one, all the comments have been made. No, I'm very pleased with the direction that we're going, and I'm very interested in how the interest plays out in the long run for us, but it can only benefit where we are. I'm happy to hear of, as I mentioned earlier, the working together with not only the school system but the city in making sure this project, thank you for taking that into consideration. This is a big issue for people within the community. But I do believe in the long run we'll be far better for it. And as Mr. Hammer said, long past any of us, it will still be standing.
Okay, I have my own comments. I would like to express my appreciation to the, particularly to Mr. Hammer and the excellent presentation you gave, and also the excellent presentation we had on the financial update, and all the work's been put into this. You can certainly see the courthouse is coming up, and I appreciate the fact that they've already met with the elected officials to find out what they want to be put into the building. I want to say this, that there's nothing better than having a couple of websites that I get on my phone that you read, and there's always some kind of complaint about what's going on, particularly saying it's over budget. And I read one recently where they named every single board member in their comment, and several other people. The judges, everybody they could think of was mentioned in this complaint about what a bad thing this was. And I think that the proof is in the numbers, the proof is in the reports, the proof is in the website you were talking about where you could go and check all this stuff. I think that we heard from Mr. Hammer said he's received questions from some people, he's answered the questions. And I think that's the best way to handle this, is to, if you have questions, in a nice, respectful manner, ask them. And let's just see. One thing we heard tonight was that, and we were probably told this before, but it was nice hearing there's some interest being earned on the money. That's going to help. I haven't heard one word about we being over budget tonight. Everything sounds very optimistic. I was concerned because I had actually heard some talk about that groundwork that was done about the, this wasn't anticipated, this is going to add to the cost of it, and so forth and so on. Mr. Hammer says that, no, this is not something that's going to cause the price to go up. From what I've heard, everything is going according to our plan, and according to the financial end of it is looking good. The only thing I heard tonight, which made me a little bit worried, was that there hasn't been any kind of final plan made for the parking. And I know that I don't want to push that point because I know that they're working very hard on that and trying to find an answer to it. And also, I don't think any of us knew about the fact they were going to add another deck or two to it, which is good news.
Mm-hmm.
And from what you told us, it's not going to cost the county anymore. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
so this is a good thing.
It is.
And one of the things I heard the most complaints about before all this started was the parking. We don't have enough parking.
Mm-hmm.
And this should be great news to everybody, that we're going to have plenty of parking there. And if a plan can be developed to make a decision on the parking design and where it's going to be, we'd like to hear it as soon as possible.
We are actively, right now working on all of that. And as well, part of that is the new administration came in and making sure that we're under, staying within budget. That, of course, that's the directive, even though there's interest. And part of looking at the parking deck, there was a tunnel planned for under Millstead that would close the road for quite some time. So we're also evaluating, if that is needed. That's about $3.9 million. So we really want to be thoughtful and make the right decision. And we will get a plan. Once we have it firmed up and we can release it, we will definitely let you all know.
Now, question, what would be the use of this space if it's not here?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. We did have a lot of, even as far back as we had public open houses last year, a lot of comments on the residents here and having a parking deck, be right across from them, as well as the church demolishing. So we did have a lot of public feedback on that. So we're really trying to look at that and see if there's another option.
Maybe we can create another Abbey restaurant. Y'all remember the Abbey?
More like an Abbey Annex, yes, on the north side.
Not to belabor the point about parking, so you brought up the tunnel. I remember at our previous meeting, you brought up the tunnel, and I had a question about, was that a part of the 140? And you
Yes.
said no, right?
No, yes, it is.
That is a part of
Yes,
the 140?
yes. The 140 is all inclusive of everything.
I thought we had put to rest the tunnel, that was not going to happen. But you're saying that has not been put to rest?
It has not been totally put to rest, but we're pretty sure it's not going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it would close.
So it'd be crossing the street. Is there any possibility of building a skyway that people could go over the street?
That is not in the plan. That's in a plan that I saw somewhere on an old poster up in the Board of Commissioners attic. There was.
The next item is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
All right. Thank you.